Welcome to the last teaching video, training video for Excel. This is Unit 3, so our last unit in Excel before we move on to bigger and better things. What we're going to do in this chapter is we're going to enhance the techniques that you guys have already learned in chapters 1 and 2 of Excel in terms of creating your worksheets and drawing charts. But we're also going to learn a little bit more about how you can manage larger worksheets. The worksheets that we've been creating in our chapters and in our assignments are much smaller than what's normally out there in the real world. So we will look at how you can learn how to freeze panes so that you can see the important parts of the worksheet when it's not all visible on the screen like it has been. Let's start by getting your student notes, and I want you to write down a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about is what an assumption is. So when you set up a worksheet, you should use cell references in your formulas whenever possible, rather than constant values, and a constant value would just be like a number. So what we're saying is that it would be better for you to reference B4 plus B5 rather than saying, okay, just add this number and this number, which are located in B4 and B5. The cell references in a formula are called the assumptions. And assumptions are values in cells that can change to determine values for formulas. This piece is going to be really important in this unit because we're going to be making some changes. So we're going to say, if I change cell B4, either I increase or decrease the number, then how does that affect another cell in the worksheet? So if you're using constant numbers, you're not able to do that. So go ahead and write down what an assumption is. It is best to use cell references rather than constant values when possible, and these cell references are called assumptions, and assumptions are values in a cell that you can change to determine new values. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do for our project. You need to make sure you are doing the project along with me for this video. You will have to print it and turn it in, as well as making a copy of these notes and turning them in. So the project for this chapter is a financial projection worksheet, and we're going to do a what-if analysis, and we're going to have a chart to go along with it. Our company is Froyo To Go, and it's a seasonal business that operates beach kiosks serving frozen yogurt during the tourist season. Every spring, the owner projects monthly sales revenue, cost of goods sold, gross margin, expenses, and income for the upcoming tourist season based on figures from the previous year. The owner does require an easy-to-read worksheet that shows financial projections for the upcoming season to use for procuring partial financing and for determining staffing needs. The worksheet needs to allow for quick analysis if projections for certain numbers change. And in addition, we want a column chart to show the breakdown of expenses into categories for each month of the season. So that's what's coming up. All right, so let's open up a worksheet. Our worksheet contains two titles, cells A1 and A2. In previous chapters, what we did is we would center the title, merge and center. But when you have a large worksheet that extends beyond the size of a window, it's best if you enter your titles left aligned. Okay? That way, when the worksheet prints, the title is on the first page. So we're going to select A1, and we're going to type Froyo To Go. And then select cell A2 and type 6-month financial projection. Go ahead and press enter, and then we want to apply the slice theme to the workbook. There it is. Now, in terms of designing our worksheet, we specifically know from our owner that we need to keep track of data for 6 months of the selling season. This is not a company that's open 12 months out of the year. So because we'll always only be looking at 6 months, we want to place those months up at the top. We want those to be column headings. So we'll start here in B4. And then we're going to put categories like all of the income and expenses that the owner endures. That will be row headings. The proper layout for your worksheet is to have one that is longer than it is wide. So we want it to be, since we're going to have more income and expense categories, we'll go longer. We want to have those on the side. So when you're creating your own worksheet, keep that in mind. You want to go long rather than wide. When we first enter the text, so when we go to B3 and we enter April, the angle degree is 0 and it reads from left to right. Now, Excel does allow us to rotate the text counterclockwise by entering a number between 1 and 90, and that can make your column heading more visually distinct, which is a nice thing to do. So with B3 selected, if you're not already home, go there, click on the alignment drop-down box, and right here, we'll click on the 45 degree, and you can see that it says 45 degrees, and click OK, and it changes the format of our box. Now we can just use our autofill to take it over 6 months, so we're going to move from B3 to G3. And we can just click on our... Now, we want to, on H3, we want to enter total, and tab, and then we want to enter chart. Excel tries to save the user time by identifying what you were doing before and assuming that you may want to do it again, so we didn't have to go through the process of formatting those. It automatically did it for us. Let's go back to our notes for a moment so that you can write some things down. So what is the angle of text when you first enter it into a cell? 0 degrees, but you can rotate it to change the degree if so desired. Now I just showed you the autofill, and I want to actually play out a little example for you on how these can work. So here I've got 4 o'clock, and you don't need to type any of this. This is just something I created and I wanted to show you. And if I want it to automatically update, autofill, and it's just assuming that I want 4, then 5, then 6, then 7. Quarter 2, 3, 4, 1, right? So it knows that there's usually only 4 quarters, or not usually, there is only 4 quarters, and so it repeats. Now here I've got a gap of July 15th, and then we jump to September 15th. So if I highlight both and then do autofill, it'll extend in the same increment. So every 2 months it'll pop up, right? Again, same thing here. We've got a 4-year gap, so if I highlight both and then autofill, it'll continue to show 4-year gaps. Same thing here. So if you want to have increments, you can just put in the first 2 and then highlight those and autofill, and it'll continue on. Okay, so those are some examples of how you can use autofill. It's really a time saver, so I encourage you to use it as often as you can. All right, so let's widen out some of our columns. Let's start with column A. If we want to put our cursor between A and B, where we have the split double arrow, and we want to change our column width to about 38. Then we want to select columns B through G, so you have the solid arrow pointing down, and select all of B through G, then come back, and when you get the double split arrow with B, you want to extend it out to in between B and C to 14.5, which will extend everything that you've selected. Oops, and then we want to select H, and we want to take that out to 18. All right, so now let's go back over, scroll back over so that you select A4, and we're going to type the following titles in our row headings. We'll start with revenue, cost of goods sold, gross margin. We'll skip A7 and go to A8 and type expenses, bonus, commission, kiosk rental, marketing, equipment, repair and maintenance. Total expenses, skip A15 and go on to A16, operating income. Go back up to A5, select it, and then you want to click on the Increase Indent button in the Home tab. And what you'll notice is that it just pushes that out just a little bit. Highlight A9 through A13, and again press the Increase Indent. And again, it adds a little visual appeal. So you've got revenue, cost of goods sold falls under that, and then your gross margin. Under your expenses are each of the expenses indented a little bit. Now it's time for us to create our what if assumptions section. Now I'm going to talk about what if assumptions later when we actually use them. Right now you're just going to input the data. So the thing that I need for you to know right now is that when you're creating your what if assumption area, you want it to be somewhere that is easily accessible but does not impair the view of the main section. So you wouldn't want it to be, you wouldn't want it to hurt the ability of the viewer to see what it is that this worksheet's really about. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to A18 and we're going to type the words what if assumptions. Then we're going to select the range A9 through A13, and you do that with the large, thick, solid plus. Then right-click, copy, and come down to A19 and paste. So right-click, and we do not need to do, we just need to do the formulas, no indentations. You can press the escape key to get out of it. And while I've got this highlighted, I lied to you, we actually do want to indent, so we'll go ahead and indent now. Okay, let's head back to our teacher notes for just a moment so you can write down something. Drag and drop. Now, let me explain drag and drop, and then I'm going to show it to you. So drag and drop is a method to copy or move cells quickly and easily. To copy or move the cell, you simply put your cursor over the cell until you get this block arrow. Then you left click on the cell that you want to copy or move, and then hold down the left side of the mouse and drag it to the place that you want it to be. If you want to copy it, you press and hold Control while you are clicking and dragging. If you want to move it, you just click and drag. So let me show you. What we did earlier is we took this and then I right-clicked, copied, and we came down here and pasted, okay? But there's also other ways that you could do it. You could highlight and you could use the drag and drop. Now here we do not want to move it, we want to copy it. So I'm going to show you moving just so that you have the information. But there's your block arrow, you left-click when you're on the block arrow and you just move it over to the side, and you'll notice that it takes it away from A9 through 13 and puts it in E9 through 13. So we'll back that up. Now, if I wanted to do it again, I would highlight. When I get to the block arrow, I can hold Control and drag it over, and oops, it copied. It did not cut. So that's the drag and drop. You will be using this in some of the assignments that we're doing. So I want to make sure that you know how to do that. So remember, you highlight it, go to the block arrow. If you want to cut it, you just left click and point to where you want to go. If you want to copy, you hit Control and then left click and go where you want to go. All right. It is often when you are working with a spreadsheet that you decide, oh gosh, I need to add something or I need to take something away. So we want to make sure that you know how to add or delete cells in your worksheet. We're going to go ahead and have you highlight A20. I've got mine activated, and this is right below where we want to insert our cell. So you want to pay attention to where you're locating your cursor, or where which cell you're activating. You want to go right below. Then we're going to right click on A20 and we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to insert the entire row. And right above it we have a new row in there. So we're going to type sales revenue for bonus, and you'll notice that it formats the way that it was supposed to. We're going to add another row. We're going to go to A19, which is below where we want to insert a row. So right click, then tap on Insert an entire row, click OK, and on this one we're going to type margin. This we will need to go ahead and increase indent. You would insert a column in the exact same manner that you did a row. We don't need to do it for this spreadsheet, but the process would be the same. And experts in data entry for spreadsheets recommend that you only enter entire rows or entire columns, that you stay away from just entering a single cell, as it can really throw off a lot of things. So now we're going to talk about deleting columns and deleting rows. Deleting a cell is not the same as clearing a cell. You're not just taking the contents out of it, which is what you're doing with clearing. You're actually completely throwing it away. The delete command removes cells from a worksheet and then shifts rows or columns accordingly. This only becomes a problem if there are formulas located in other cell references, and then that cell becomes deleted. So, for example, if I'm working with C14, or let's just do B14. If I'm working with B14 and I tell B14 that I end up putting a formula in there that says I want you to add B9 through B13, and then I get rid of B11, that can throw off the contents of B14, because it's going, you told me to add in all of these cells, and now one of them isn't missing. So when that happens, go to your teacher or to your student notes. You will get, if there's a problem, you will get a hashtag REF in your cell. And what that means is that the cell where that hashtag REF is located has a reference error. So you entered the formula B4 times B5 minus B6 into cell B7, but later you deleted row 6 and did not adjust your formula in B7. So now when it goes to subtract B6, it doesn't make sense to the cell. So you would get that hashtag reference error because you have an invalid formula. So you'll need to pay attention to that. It's a nice benefit of Excel to sort of notice that we've made a mistake, and then you can make adjustments accordingly. Do not just ignore that error message. Let's head back to our worksheet. The next thing we have to do is we need to create our what-if assumptions. Now when we enter these, we are going to enter them with format symbols. So we're going to put commas, we're going to put dollar signs, we're going to put percents. We have not done that previously because we go back and we later format, but we want this to be in the way that we want it to be in the cell a certain way. So in B19, let's go ahead and enter 77.5%. In B20, we're going to enter 5,000. In B21, we're going to enter 60,000. Let's see, where I lost my place. In B22, we're going to enter 30%. In B23, we're going to enter 10%. In B24, we'll enter 5%. And in B25, we'll enter 4%. All right, let's go ahead and enter some more data. Let's go up to B4, and we'll enter the following numbers: 45,000. And you want to tab over 52,000, 67,500, 90,000, 77,500, 63,750. And then it's time to total, so we'll want to go ahead and click our sum button and make sure that we've got everything in there. Yep, we do, so we can hit enter. At this point, it's important for you to know a business report is really meaningless if it doesn't have a date stamp. So there's a really simple way to create a date stamp, and that's by using the now function. Go ahead and click over to your notes. Let's talk about what that is. The now function is a date and time function that's available in Excel, and it's a really simple way to put a date stamp on the worksheet. When you use the function, the computer automatically updates the date to the current date and time when you open the document. There are 24 date and time functions available in Excel. So you can just choose. We're going to go ahead and do that now. So go ahead and activate or highlight cell H1, and then go ahead and click the insert function key, and you can say here, select a category. We want to say date and time. And we can go down and find now. Click OK. Click OK. Now we want to change the format of that, so we're going to click on Format, scroll down to Format Cells, go up to Date, and we want to pick the 3/14/12, say OK. And then we're going to double click the border between H and I to change the width of the column to best fit. So when you get the double arrow, just left double click and it'll best fit.